Solar flares are erupting on the surface of the sun. In the past week now, 6 massive flares have spewed from the sun. So what's up with that? Tarek Malik is the managing editor for Space.com and with me here in studio. How are you? Nice to see you again. What is up with that? What's going on?
Well, the sun is just showing its active, kind of angry, if you will, side. It's got this giant sunspot that is just popping off these flares.
These aren't just regular flares. They're the size of Jupiter, and they're as big as the sun can produce.
Yeah. So we saw basically over the last few days these huge solar flares. They are called X-class flares. They're the top of the Richter scale that the sun actually has for these events, and it just came one after another. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In fact, there was one yesterday, a flare just this morning too.
When we talk to you folks, you say, "Hey, this is the thing you have to worry about because this can knock out your iPhone and your GPS," and then we're all.
Yeah, and what we saw from this one here, this giant sunspot, was that it did create these strong radio blackouts. They were temporary when they happened, but we did not see like the major kind of interference in your GPS, your cell phones. We didn't see that, so I think we kind of dodged a bullet with this one here.
You do?
Yeah,
dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I mean, you can think a huge eruption of material that usually comes with these flares. We didn't see a lot of that. With these activities, if one of those had been aimed right at the Earth during the time, we would see the effects, a couple of days afterward, and it could be an interesting event.
Wow. So you could see this from the roof of your building.
That's right.
In Lower Manhattan?
That's right.
How's that possible?
Well, we have, you can buy them just by the dozen. We have these solar eclipse glasses. You do not want to look at the sun with just sunglasses or anything because you can really damage your eyes. But eclipse glasses, solar filters on telescopes, binoculars, that type of thing, you can safely look at the sun. We looked up, you could see it with your own eyes,
wow.
This black dot on the lower right-hand side of the sun, and it was just amazing to think that
you do this for a living. Have you been able to see that before?
It's the first time that I've ever seen anything like that. I've looked at the sun through binoculars with filters and with eclipse glasses, but never actually seen a sunspot with my own eyes like that.
New Yorkers, already on edge after the first case of Ebola was confirmed in the city, have accused 2 policemen of negligence. The NYPD officers who attended the apartment of Dr. Craig Spencer, the first confirmed Ebola case, were spotted dumping their protective gear and caution tape into a rubbish bin on the street. Now, the pictures emerged online, sparking a Twitter outcry, with people accusing the officers of being irresponsible or even, quote, losing their minds. Others criticized them not only for choosing the wrong place, but for not knowing how to dispose of the suits properly.
Fox News has obtained a memo indicating the Obama administration is considering allowing non-Americans to come into this country to be treated for Ebola. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel is live tonight with the breaking details from Washington. Good evening, Mike.
Well, Brett, good evening. Sources indicate it is an internal memo marked sensitive but unclassified, written by a State Department official. Some key points are as follows. Purpose: come to an agreed State Department position on the extent to which non-U.S. citizens will be admitted to the United States for treatment of Ebola virus disease. Recommendation: that state and DHS, Homeland Security, devise a system for expeditious parole of Ebola-infected non-citizens into the U.S. as long as they are otherwise eligible for medical evacuation from the Ebola-affected countries and for entry into the United States. Issue: the United States needs to show leadership and act as we are asking others to act by admitting certain non-citizens into the country for medical treatment for Ebola virus disease during the Ebola crisis.
of the Cold War, an unusually high number of Russian warplanes flying near Europe. Officials say fighter jets and bombers like these may be putting commercial flights in danger. That's what they're saying. I want to show you what happened over in the map. When you see it on the continent, it's quite something to see, as one of our information specialists was just showing me. NATO reports that European countries intercepted more than 20 Russian aircraft over the past 2 days alone. They were traveling along these red lines that you see up here. See that thing? That's a long way. Well, officials say that the 2 Russian bombers kept going all the way to the coast of Portugal, all the way down here, and then made a loop back. And that's when that country's Air Force took action. Senior U.S. officials says Russia is trying to provoke its neighbors because of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Now, you see all these that are highlighted here, all these countries, all of those participated in one way or another in sort of trying to get after these Russian MiGs or whatever the heck they were. I don't know what he's doing.
Even though President Obama is not the declarant this time, he is the leader. Leaders set the tone for their staff. Maybe that's why the staff felt so free to trash talk our nation's best friend now. This is so wrong. Prime Minister Netanyahu deserves respect. President Obama should apologize for himself and his staff, and then he should find those senior officials, even though they're anonymous. He can find them and get rid of them.
some other kids, get ready to color between the horns. A satanic coloring book, one step closer to winding up in the hands of thousands of public school children. The Satanic Temple just submitted it to the Orange County School District in Florida for approval. A judge there just ruled religious pamphlets of all kinds can be distributed after the Freedom from Religion Foundation sued.
Like all religions, the Sikh faith is steeped in tradition. One of the most revered is the carrying of a kirpan, which is a sword or dagger at all times.
It's kind of hard for others to understand.
At this Sikh community center, the concept of the kirpan is taught to children as an instrument of social justice.
You know, the people who are actually formally initiated, to them it's very near and dear.
But is it appropriate to bring to school? A few weeks ago at Auburn's Gildo Ray Elementary, a Sikh family approached the school telling them their little boy would be carrying a kirpan every day. That didn't sit well with some. Shelby is a school volunteer in the district.
There's no way I'd go back until the knife was gone.
She says respecting religion goes too far if it compromises student safety.
They can't take that thing into the airports. TSA would be all over it. Why is the school district any different?
Tonight after a Marine Corps father complained to his daughter's school about a homework assignment on Islam. Trace Gallagher has the story from our West Coast Bureau. Trace?
Megan, Kevin Wood considers himself a patriot, and he admits that he was very unhappy when he went to speak with the vice principal about an assignment given to his 11th grade daughter in St. Charles, Maryland. She was asked to write a 3-page explanation of Islam's 5 pillars, of Mecca, the holiest place in Islam, and about the Prophet Muhammad. Listen.
I don't agree with it. I said you can't study God or Christianity in school. I said you have atheists suing schools for saying God in pledge, and not being able to say prayers before football games, but we can force feed our kids Islam.
Wood claims none of the parents were notified about the assignment, so he asked the school to give his daughter an alternate assignment, but the school refused and even defended the subject matter. Listen.
We're not teaching religion. We're teaching world history. He was threatening to cause a disruption or possible disruption at the school.
So they banned him from school property. His wife says he was simply trying to make a point. Here she is.
I guess that's the problem, is that people do not understand what he endured when he was over in Iraq. And he lost friends, and he lost brothers and sisters to these people. And people are not understanding where he's coming from.
The Wood family has spoken to the school board and the superintendent, and they are in the process of trying to work out a compromise. But if their daughter is forced to do the assignment, they say she won't and will just take the F.
What a story this is. Residents say they thought it was a Halloween prank at first. A decapitated body
lying in the street outside an apartment building in New York, but now police say this was definitely for real. Laura Ingle has a story for us from our New York newsroom this morning. Hi, Laura. Hi, Martha. You know, people who live in this area are describing what indeed sounds like a real-life horror show, telling local reporters that after seeing a headless body in the street, they saw a man kicking a severed head down the road last night. Now, police spokesperson I talked to with the Nassau County Police Department confirms to Fox it is investigating the death of a woman in her 60s who was found outside in a residential area, but could not confirm she was missing her head. Say the investigation is ongoing. Authorities say that just 25 minutes after the woman was found, police got another call that a man in his 30s had been struck by a nearby Long Island Railroad train. Now, police say the victims are both from Farmingdale. That's about 30 miles outside of New York City. The cases, they say, could be related.
News 4's Millette Green is with police as they try to find a man who attacked a police officer with an axe. Millette?
Actually, we're in the 1000 block of Perry Street in Northeast, not far from Michigan Avenue. Just a few minutes ago, about 5 minutes ago, all of the police officers left the scene here on Perry. This is where they tell me K-9 units tracked a suspect who had earlier attempted to attack one of their officers in his patrol car with an axe. That actual attack happened in the 3800 block of 13th Street, just a couple of blocks away and not far from the Franciscan Monastery. The patrol officer was actually patrolling his beat in an alley when a man came out of nowhere, police tell me, and hit the officer's car window. The officer was not hurt, not injured in the actual axe attack, but in the struggle with the suspect, the officer injured his shoulder. Now, just a little while ago, we spoke with a resident who lives on Perry, where police were out here for about 30 minutes before they left.
The video shows an elderly Alzheimer's patient being abused. Just minutes ago, we learned the investigation into this video is much bigger than first thought. Good evening, I'm Gail Sear.
And I'm Keith Kate. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's get right to that breaking news. It's hard to believe that someone could treat an Alzheimer's patient like this. We told you about the video at 5 o'clock. We showed it to you, but since then, we've learned more information. So let's get right to News Channel 8's Jeff Patterson. He's live in Winter Haven. So what do we know now that we didn't know then, Jeff?
Yeah, good evening, Keith. We now have a statement from the nursing home that reveals as many as 6 employees are under investigation by DCF and the Winter Haven Police Department on allegations of abuse, all because of a secretly recorded video.
Dale Wilson secretly set up a hidden camera in his 76-year-old father's room when he began to see unexplained bruising on his dad's arms and legs. What he recorded is shocking.
It's pretty disturbing. I just really can't believe somebody would treat an elderly, in his condition and, that way.
Wilson's father suffers from Alzheimer's and is no longer able to communicate. After seeing this video, Winter Haven police arrested 28-year-old Yashika Jones and 35-year-old Rose Blossom.
They're taunting, they're trying to get a reaction. It's obvious that they're trying to get a reaction.
Winter Haven Police Chief Charlie Bird's own father suffered from Alzheimer's. He couldn't believe what he was seeing on this recording.
At one point, one of them actually kicked him, and he did sustain an injury from that.
The staff at Palm Gardens Nursing Home refused to talk with us about the incident today and ordered us off of their property.
We trusted them to take care of him.
Dale Wilson told me he experienced a wide range of emotions when he saw the video.
A lot of sadness for my dad, a lot of anger towards the people that were inflicting, the damage to him.
Pope Francis says the theories of evolution and the Big Bang are real and God did not wave a magic wand to create the universe. The Pope also says the theories of man do not contradict the role that Catholics believe God played in the creation of humankind. His comments are being called a landmark declaration for a religion often challenged to harmonize scripture with science. For more on this story, we are joined by Father Michael Bashar. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Beverly.
Father Bashar, tell me a little bit about why this has got such traction, because this is a position that has been held by the Church. It's not a new theory at all, that these two can work in concert with one another, but it's getting a lot of attention now. Is this because it's Pope Francis?
I think in large part, when I was in seminary 25 years ago, we were discussing the document that Pius XII wrote, Humani Generis, that actually looked at this issue of evolution and science. And at that point, Pius XII had said that the two things were really compatible with Catholic teaching. What I find, increasingly more remarkable with Pope Francis is his ability to take kind of the tried and true of the Catholic tradition and then to reframe it and to represent it in such a way that the language is understood by a lot of people. And of course, his own witness of simplicity and humility, I think is really garnering a lot of attraction. So he's able to kind of leverage, I think, his own kind of popularity to represent these things in a new way.
So in essence, I mean, he seems to better reach, well, or at least reach more people with the way that he presents his message. Let me ask you, who is he trying to reach in general, other than, obviously he wants to take the message of the Lord. But in this case, because we're talking about science and creation, there's a lot of people that wouldn't buy into one or the other because they don't believe it can work in concert. Who is he trying to reach?
Right. I think he's really trying to reach everyone. As the vicar of Peter and the vicar of Christ, really what he's looking to do is to preach the news of the gospel to the ends of the earth. In this whole movement of what we call the new evangelization, it's a desire to kind of bring into the fold, so to speak, those who have never heard the gospel before, those who may have heard it and may have forgotten it or kind of fallen away from the practice of the faith, and then of course to re-strengthen and to reaffirm those that are constant believers. So it's difficult to say like what his target audience is, because I think his target audience is really the whole human family.
So, I mean, I guess in specific, when you talk about the Big Bang Theory and creationism, right, and the lack of a magic wand, tell me what he's saying in terms of, the Lord creating humankind over 6 days and resting on the seventh, compared to the Big Bang Theory, or how that worked.
Okay. I think, so much of it is the way in which the Catholic Church has been interpreting Scripture for, about 100 years now, and we would refer to it as the historical critical approach. So our approach as Catholics is that we never see Scripture on its own as kind of self-understood or really kind of self-developing. We always look at Scripture and tradition together. And in particular, one of the things that we've asked ourselves to look at is the context in which the Scriptures were written. So when we look at those Genesis stories, we know that the same things are referenced in other Babylonian religions at the time. So when we look at Genesis 1, Genesis 2, part of our understanding as Catholics is that they need to be understood in the terms of myth. So not that the stories aren't true, but rather that when we see the stories, we're meant to understand them as a story that reveals God's great plan for humanity. So the number 6 and resting on the seventh is not so important. What's more important is that we believe that God facilitated creation as we understand it, that our God rested when he saw us and recognized our own beauty, and that he invites us to kind of carry on this message of recreation and cooperating in that movement moving forward.
Well, some would argue that he shouldn't be. Others say it's fine. Now, this is why critics fault the administration and states that have stopped enforcing immigration policy, especially against criminals like 34-year-old Marcelo Marquez, who killed 2, wounded 2 on Friday with firearms obtained illegally, also known as Luis Bracamonte. He was deported in 1997 after selling drugs and deported again in 2001. Now today, or rather on Friday, police responded to a motel in Sacramento when Bracamente shot one deputy in the face and fled. He wounded another while hijacking a car. Before killing a detective and wounding another deputy, he forced his way into a home until police flushed him out with tear gas. Now, Sacramento deputy Danny Oliver was killed. He was a 15-year veteran of the force. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children. Also killed Placer County Detective Michael Davis Jr., father of 4, whose father was also killed 26 years ago in the line of duty. Police reacted to the murders with disbelief and disgust.
This represents another failure, another breakdown in terms of immigration, and that's horribly unfortunate.
Bracamente spoke very little English. Photos show him with a belly tattoo declaring Mexican pride. In Sinaloa, he and his girlfriend will appear in court tomorrow.
Of what we're trying to
Harris, this could cause big problems down the line.
All right, so let's talk about where the problems come in, because if you're an American citizen and you're, say, living in China, as you said, and wealthy, and we know that this happens because wealthy Chinese couples have offered up to $120,000 for surrogate moms, right? So what if that surrogate mom, who's an American, decides, well, you know what, I'm kind of selling citizenship here. 120 grand ain't gonna cut it. Let me get that puppy up to $250,000. Y'all say you're wealthy, pay me more. Not only am I having your child, I'm having an American child for you. That comes with my citizenship as an American citizen. All of a sudden, her fee goes, suddenly, are you going to have American women around the world trying to make a buck off this? And so I would like to spend a little time with Immigration Services and just ask the question, if this hasn't happened yet, but if it were, is that taxable income? What are you going to do to discourage that?
And how about the firms that actually provide those surrogates?
American, they're going to make the money.
Not even American. If you have an American passport. So if you are a Russian and you come here, or you're of Hispanic descent or any descent, you come here, you have an American passport, as I understand it, you can go, Joanne, overseas as long as you are an American and carry this baby because you have the American body. This is going to be a great Ben Affleck film. I would love to be cast as the very fertile surrogate. But if Hollywood does it, you know that these clinics and these surrogates are going to be the hero, when really it's corruption and it's undermining, you know, the value of this country.
Yeah. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around. It just feels like a whole lot of, there'll be exploitation. Even if it was done first, it's going to be exploited by the wrong people.
Well, you would hope they have all the money that they wouldn't, right? So you're paying all that money to have a surrogate. You would think that then you wouldn't have a child who needs to be dependent on American government, right? Because they're coming from a wealthy family. So my question is, why do you need this? Why this?
It's different because they may have all that money in China, but they don't have our freedom. They're not us. And so, I mean, it's the same reason why people want to come to our great nation. And we want that kind of immigration, but this is a loophole that could really go down a slippery road. And then you've got the human side of it, that little baby.
You should note that this policy
kind of in the middle.
Made for this purpose. We're just simply exposing what could be a loophole that could be further exposed.